So it's Ian here from Disruptors. Here, Jack Bosch. He came all the way from Scottsdale, Arizona. We're going to find out a little bit about himself. So we had a long conversation before this, but before we get back into your family, you're the land guy. That's what I always hear. You're the land guy. And you were expressing to me how land's easier. I've heard this before. Anyone that's still in the fence about land, what would you tell them over trying to hop over that fence?
Well, first of all, to understand that there's many different ways of real estate investing, and even there's many different ways of land investing. Okay. And most people hear land, they think it's the multi-million-dollar lot in downtown, whatever, Chicago or downtown Atlanta, that's going to cost fortune to develop, that's going to take years to do something with, and it's highly complicated. Well, that is one way of real estate investing, one way of land investing. That's not our way. We flip land just like real estate. It's not just like house flippers flip houses or like wholesale land, like wholesalers wholesale houses, like you guys do, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? And that is actually way simpler than any kind of house flipping. That's the right word. We stumbled into land. We did not know it existed. There's nobody teaching it. We wanted to get into real estate. We actually listened to an infomercial by Ron LeGrand back in the days. So we attended tax deed auctions. And at tax deed auctions, we're outbid like crazy. And then finally one day we had that thought. And the thought was particularly around the tax delinquent side, about the fact that people didn't pay property taxes, and there's properties that went to tax deed auction or to the tax lien auction that were foreclosed on. We were like, who does that? And we had one thought, and that thought was, if somebody doesn't want their property so much that they even stop paying property taxes, but it takes 3 to 5 years for that property to actually go to foreclosure or go to a tax sale, what if we could find out who these people are right now and perhaps send them a letter? Nobody needs to learn all the complications of houses. We don't really need to know a whole bunch about real estate here. All we need to know is figure out what is it worth, how to find the people who don't want it anymore. And we started doing deals. In our first deal, the first year we did 63 deals. Next year we did 150 deals as a couple of two, no outside help, that's it. And then from there we then started hiring people and brought it up for a couple of years to 800 deals a year.
So you've been able to balance real estate and family and keep your family together and travel and see all this stuff. But I feel like a lot of people in real estate, it's like head down, work. They don't have that freedom. What advice do you give someone that said, hey, I got into real estate, I want to have more time for my family? How do you balance that so they can do real estate but still have time with their family?
That's a tough one. Can go multiple places with that. So the first thing I would say is understand that real estate flipping is not the end goal. It's a means goal. Like, it's the means to an end. What is the end goal that you're looking for? Yeah. The end goal is you don't want to flip another house. You like the adrenaline rush of it, yes, and you like the dopamine hit of it. It's like, yeah, I got it, right? But what's the end goal? The end goal is most people get into real estate in order to be financially free and have time. So make sure you put that, you keep that in front of you.
Yep.
Right. So when you make money, there's a time to hustle. And we hustled. Michelle and I even worked 6.5 days for the first 5 years. But it's a means to an end. It's a way to make it so that money over into something else. And now we've built up a portfolio of almost 1,000 apartments. Now we own those apartments, and those apartments, they spit out a cash flow that will, for the rest of our lives, enable us to live the life that we want to do.
A means to an end. I like that. And that everyone that's watching, means to an end means that you subscribe. And then for your end goal, for more time off. That's why you listen to the podcast. Make sure you tune in.
Shout out to 7, 6, 5, jump on the Steve Trang. 4, 3, we real estate disruptors.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's very special episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we've got a very unique episode. As you can see, looking at the background, things are a little bit different today. And the reason why is that today we are taking a big step. As you know, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires, and one of the best ways to become a millionaire is through sales. And so that big step that we're talking about is that we are launching our very own sales community. So why are we launching a sales community? Well, we know from experience that is one thing to learn from a person in front of you, to read it from a book, to take a course. All great ways to learn. I've learned that way myself. But the best way to learn is from your peers, from your network, from your community. And so we're going to be talking about that today. And you want to listen all the way to the very end if you want founder status. Now, I'm not doing this on my own. I'm actually doing this with someone I look up to a lot, and that person is Ian Ross. So if you don't know Ian, he has had a lot of experience in insurance sales and a lot of experience in solar sales. A top performing rep for multiple years, and probably, no, definitely the biggest sales nerd I know out there, right? So the reason why we have Ian involved in this is because I don't know anyone who has done it just as well or done it as well as he has, and also has the ability to teach what he knows. So without further ado, let's get Ian up here. All right, so again, this is a live show, so please ask your questions, fire away. So we're going to talk real quick about the community, but before we do that, Ian, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, Steve. Can you hear me all right?
Hear you great.
Awesome. Well, first off, this is awesome. Fantastic to actually be on the Real Estate Disruptors podcast. It's a fan of it for a long time, so it's a cool thing to actually be here and be having this conversation. Fundamentally, I would say I couldn't be more excited for today and what we're doing. Like, this is a big step forward, I think, in terms of thinking about, like you said, other ways to create more millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate is an amazing vehicle to get people from point A to point B in terms of financial freedom, in terms of getting everything they want out of their life financially. Another aspect of that is selling, is sales, is having the persuasion techniques and abilities that allow you to have the best possible conversations with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a big push forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to create wealth is real estate. I don't think there's a better vehicle to creating wealth. To acquire that real estate is running a real estate business. A lot of people choose to go that route. And every business, I don't care what industry you're in, is ultimately a sales and marketing business. Marketing, that's pretty simple as copy and pasting, right? A lot of people, when they first get into the business, where do I find deals, what lists, what source, what dialer, all these other questions, right? But that's actually not the hard part, right? Everyone else is marketing fairly effectively. It's the sales part that really separates you from your competition. And so sales, again, is something we're really doubling down on. So the community, right? The purpose of the community is to create a platform for sales professionals and persuasion-focused entrepreneurs. So you want to talk a little bit about the community, Ian?
Yeah, so this is a big thing. I mean, in terms of what we're doing, we're going to be launching today the Sales Disruptors community. And what we'll be setting up here is a collection of like-minded individuals who are, much like yourself and I, entirely focused on growth and improving their abilities and their skills as a salesperson, or if you're a business owner, your persuasion skills, your ability to present, to talk about yourself, your product, your services, whatever it is you're doing, to have a conversation with someone, to be able to get them excited or get them to want to spend money in some capacity.
Yep.
And we're setting up a situation where people can learn from each other and learn in a organized, supportive way to grow together.
Yeah. And, you know, again, I mentioned in the very beginning, right? Like, there's the trainings, there's the courses, there's the books, and this and that. There's a lot of material out there, right? There's no shortage of material out there. But even with all that material out there, for the longest time, I always thought it required an it factor. Like, oh, he's got the gift of gab, or he just has it, right? Or she's just super charismatic, and so she's a natural salesperson. What I ultimately learned down the road was that person's an extrovert. Like, that's what it really meant, right? And you see this often. People's like, oh, you know, you're a talker, you should get into sales. What we know about sales now is like that's actually an inaccurate assessment. But I didn't learn how to do sales the right way until I found two things. I found a trainer and my own little community, right? I used to go to an office up in Scottsdale and I would meet with my trainer as well as everyone in that room. And it was us learning the principles and concepts from the instructor, which was super important for the foundation of what we were learning, but it was us actively troubleshooting each other's challenges. Hey, I went on this appointment. Here's what they said, right? Hey, how do I overcome this objection? And then there was role playing and this and that. And that was what really hammered in the principles and the tools, the ability to recall. Because if you look at sales, another way to potentially look at sales is like you're learning a whole different language, right? Like, you know, I took Spanish in high school, I think like everyone else, right? I can't possibly have a conversation with a person, right, that starts speaking Spanish to me in a market here. But they'll say some things like, oh, I know what that is. I know that what that word means. And with sales, if you don't work on it actively and have someone to work with other peers in your community, your ability to recall it when you need it won't be there because you haven't been able to exercise that muscle with your peers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that it's having those types of conversations, having conversations where money you make as a professional is on the line fundamentally. Like that's a big key in terms of what it is that makes a salesperson versus someone who isn't, is someone who their conversations with customers, prospects, however that their setup is for their conversations, that they will be rewarded financially if those conversations go well.
Yeah.
That's like a big fundamental principle there. And I would say that having the understanding of how to have those conversations with other people who are similar, who are also having the same types of interactions and where their money is on the line, and how much they improve at their own conversations is absolutely fundamental.
Yeah, and if you are in sales, there's not a lot of industries that are better in sales and to make a lot of active income, right? Like you can't necessarily make, you know, NFL starter money, but you could reasonably make NFL kicker money, right? It's not outside the realm of possibility to make what an NFL kicker makes, and you can make significantly more than what a physician makes if you're skilled in sales.
Yeah, I would say that in terms of thinking about the income, you can probably make more than anyone else you know in your life, just by being a sales professional for some other company. Not having your own business, not having a real estate portfolio. Fundamentally, you could probably make more than anyone else you know if you were just really good at selling one thing to someone else.
Right.
That is absolutely true.
And that's, again, what I was saying during the introduction, right? Like, we've been talking about we want to create 100 millionaires, and a lot of it was how to build a real estate business. Again, I believe fundamentally every business comes down to a sales and marketing business. And so you guys have known, you know, if you guys have been listening, you know that we are one of the names, the brands in real estate sales training. But this sales community is for the general sales training. So if you've been watching our comments or our what we're posting on Facebook, on Instagram, and on our emails, like we're saying, we're launching something big. We're launching a general sales community. This is what we're talking about. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? Like, you know, for me, I've got a lot of experience on the realtor side. I got a lot of experience on the house buying side. And, you know, some of you guys know my story. I got a lot on the cold calling side as well, right? I used to work at a call center as one of my first jobs. But Ian, what industries, again, are you bringing to the table here?
Yeah, so I've had success in selling life insurance, and those were done virtually. Those consultations, they were done over Zoom. It was a pandemic era life insurance selling in New York State, which is a tough commission only gig if you can get it. But especially selling mostly to union members, which is the majority of my conversation. So getting a Teamster truck driver to sit down and interrupting his dinner and getting him to think what it would be like for his family if he didn't come home tomorrow is a tough conversation to have. But if you can cut your teeth on that, you can do pretty well. And then from there, I went on to selling residential solar. So that was going into homes, not too far off, going into someone's home to acquire their property in terms of wholesaling, and having the conversation about what it would look like if they had solar panels on their home. How would that function for their bill? In terms of locking in their rate, figuring that out. But fundamentally, a excitement sale on saving money, and then potentially helping the environment, depending on how I wanted to position it based on the what the homeowner said was important to them.
Depending on their
And
disposition,
then,
what was the outcome they were seeking? Why did they reach out to you and selling to that need?
yeah, exactly. So it's funny because you hit this sort of like this wall at a certain point when you start to have certain aspects of getting good at sales conversations, which is that you go from understanding that it's like you're first told, like, this is how we pitch this product when you're working at a company. This is how we talk about X, especially if we're talking to this type of person. And that is all well and good. And you can also, just doing that process at enough volume, still make more money than everyone else you know in your life. That's what's so incredible about sales. But once you start actually getting into the weeds and understanding that my conversation should be adjusted to the person I'm talking to, and that what matters to them is not what matters on this slide deck, it's not what matters that I've been told I should always emphasize. It actually is about their circumstance. You have that consultative approach.
Yeah.
It changes everything, and your job gets way easier because it's much less like projecting outwards. Here's everything we can do for you. Here's everything that our product or service provides. And it starts becoming what's important to you. How can we solve what problems you're going through? Here, I happen to have the perfect solution for whatever it is you're going through.
Yeah. And I think you look at the evolution, right, of sales. So I think if you look to the industry, there's a chart right out there, right, of like trusted industries, and the top is always a nurse, right? Nurses, hands down, trusted. There's no one more trusted than a nurse. We're always competing on the bottom in sales, right? And like we're always doing better than the attorneys, right, and the politicians. But like we're in that conversation, right? So we want to change this culture. Right? We want to move away from the Grant Cardone pushy sales person mentality. Someone has my money, I got to go get it. Press hard. There's 4 copies, right? Like we got to move away from that. And then you get into like these big corporations. You got Xerox, IBM, and these major companies that have their training, which it works for them. Like you said, even if you do it wrong, you do it the corporate way, it still works. You can still get paid very, very well. But what's the corporate way? Features and benefits, right? Ian, let me tell you about this copy machine, right? It can make this many copies per minute. It doesn't matter what size. It could do black, white, color. You can change it midstream. You can have logins, this and that. Like there's all these features and benefits. And so we learned, right, about the effective way to sell, which we're going to teach spend a lot of time going through this inside the community. But if you look at like the best example I can think of is like a drill, right? If you go into a Home Depot and you buy a drill, right, there's a few different ways that people will sell you the drill. First guy is features and benefits. Doesn't even ask you a single question. Not a single question. All right, Ian, thanks for coming in. You want to buy a drill? Let me show you this drill, right? It's cordless. It's this many horsepower. It's this many hours between charges, right? It can do wood screws. You can drill in the concrete, like all these features and benefits, right? And you got the second guy, the more seasoned guy. And the seasoned guy says, hey, what are you looking for in a drill, right? What are you trying to do? Why I need the drill to hold about this big, right? So, oh, perfect. I got the drill for you. He listened, he asked questions, and he picked a drill based off how you answer those questions technically. And then you got the best guy who's not going to stay at Home Depot for much longer because how good he is. He's like, Ian, why are you buying a drill? Well, I'm building a treehouse for my family. Oh, okay. I know that I've got 6 more summers with my family, and we want to create memories, and we're going to be reading books under the starlight, right? All these things. All right, perfect. I got the drill for you to build a treehouse so that you can create memories for your family, right? That's the third level. That's the kind of stuff that Ian and I are going to be talking about, how to effectively sell to people what they actually want.
Yeah, that's such a good example, because the guy who sells the features and benefits of the drill at Home Depot, sometimes that person still wants to buy a drill and is going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
And then they can give themselves the talk of like, I did such a good job talking about that drill. That guy got that and he bought it and it's exactly what he wanted. It's like, yeah, but you just sort of lucked your way into that. You went about it the not the optimal way to give you the best possible
You're an order
results.
taker.
You're an order taker. And the big switch, the big change comes from when the conversation is, oh, you want to have, why are you getting this drill? Like, what do you want out of it? Oh, it's for my family. It sounds like it's going to be really important to you that it will deliver consistent results every single time, no matter what, so that your family's safe, because they're going to be elevated in a tree. It's like, that's right. Well, tell me more about this tree house. Tell me more about what you want to do with your family. Tell me more about this, how many summers you have left and how important this is.
Yeah.
And at the end of that process, this is the perfect drill for you. And not only will that person probably buy the drill, but the reality of the time, when we're going through a process like this, we're selling a more expensive product than a drill at Home Depot. And that usually usually means fundamentally they're going to be having more competition than this drill or that drill are not buying. You're having actually other salespeople pitching different drills next to you, right? You're actually competing with other salespeople. In that instance, the person will always, almost without fail, go with the person who figured out the reason why and how this is important to them, and that being relevant, than the person who's doing the baseline, this drill can drill through concrete.
Yeah.
That every single time. And that's like a big thing I'm going to be pushing in the community.
Yeah, right. And this guy's going to be sold on you. And on top of that, you think, hey, not only do you want to buy this drill, but I think if you're going to build a tree house, let me show you the wood I would pick to build a tree house. Let me show you what else you might be wanting to look at. They're going to want to buy whatever you prescribe because you understand them better than anybody else. And again, I want to highlight here, we're talking about the sales process that we're going to be giving you here, but it's not about us, right? It's about the community. So we're going to be super committed to ensuring that everyone in our community is going to be learning on sales. And so we're going to do that through a few different ways, right? Again, there's the training, there's the material that we're going to give in here, but there's also going to be regular calls by Ian, right? Talking about like, hey, what are you running into right now? What are some issues that are preventing you from getting sales, right? So we're going to be doing two group calls a week. And we're really going to push hard to promote and highlight the members within our community that have the go-giver mindset. So anything else you want to hit on that, Ian?
Yeah, so I want to make sure we're going to be having at least 2 group calls per week, every single week. And we'll be going over aspects of like, what are the struggles you dealt with this past week? What's coming up next week? Figuring out to actually make sure that if you're a sales professional, whether it's in real estate, you're selling to, a big company, you're selling to Amazon, or you're selling a watch to Jeff Bezos, whatever that situation is, that your circumstances and what is unique to you is brought up and dealt with in that community. And we can deal with the challenges and situations that you are going through. And you will have me as a sales trainer and the other community members who are also in similar industries or in similar situations and having similar conversations, talk you through how they might deal with it and give you their perspective. We're going to be setting up people to be able to connect to other like-minded people, to be able to grow together, to ultimately like get to that next level by collaborating.
Yeah. And I think that's such a key part there. You just said collaborating. Like, you guys know, I'm friends with Pace Morby and friends with Chris Jefferson. Why am I bringing their names up? They've both built amazing communities, right? Watching Pace build the sub 2 community in the last few years is an incredible sight to behold. It's I can't name a person that's done it better. Chris Jefferson, what he's done in the last year and a half with the Charged Up community, right? It's amazing to watch this community grow as well. We intend to do the same thing for salespeople, right? So we're looking to see not only for members to join and get better at sales. That's great, but that's just one part. What we love to see is when you have success, it's this pay-it-forward mentality where we're impacting the community, right? So we would love to see at some point, sooner rather than later, a solar community within the sales community, right? We already have those channels available. So a solar community, an insurance community, a car sales realtor, house buyers, whatever industry, want to see that there and watch that grow and do everything we can, Ian and myself, to support and facilitate that growth within it. So the other thing too, you know, when you guys sign up, we didn't just like, hey, let's do this, and then like, let's see what happens. My team has been working really hard behind the scenes to ensure a smooth rollout, right? And so what they've done is we already have every course I've ever created and sold is already inside the community. So our sales masterclass, which we've sold for $5,000, all my live events, which we charge anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, are already inside the community, right? It's already there. So our sales masterclass, if you've been on the fence this whole time, if you sign up today, you get access to that right now, right? So if you struggle in sales in any way, you're gonna have all that material. But it's not just me. Again, Ian is someone that we brought in because he is a master in sales as well. So Ian, what are the courses that you already have in there, and what are the courses that are on the roadmap for the immediate future?
Yeah. So right now, the first thing we're pushing forward is to make sure everyone's on the same page, is building out a sales process fundamentals. So it's like that 5 essential building blocks of what makes a good sales process, in terms of like starting at, you know, the initial prospecting and outreach, discovery questions, the consultation / presentation, depending on how your industry talks about the product that you're selling, handling those objections, and then finally, you know, making the asking for the sale is one way to think about it, but actually closing the deal, and then the sort of post-sale referral process and building that out. That's the first thing that we're making sure everyone's on the same page, that we've got like a baseline understanding of what a good sales process looks like, because people are going to come from all different backgrounds in this community and different experiences, selling different products at different price points. I want to make sure that we have a baseline understanding of where everyone is coming from. We're also going to include, we've got upcoming stuff on like the fundamental mindset of a top performing sales rep, cold call techniques, whether you're setting an appointment, whether you're in an industry where you're having to do one call closes, like some things with insurance. We'll have things on discovery questions, entirely focused on specific industries. Like, how should those questions really work depending on what industry you're working within? How to mirror back the information you're getting, labeling, how to get hired for your dream sales job. There's a bunch of stuff coming up that we're all going to have included and be released there.
Yeah. And then the last one I didn't see here, objection handling, right? Like that is like the key word, right? If there's one key word you want to target, if you're looking to hire or not hire, if you want to sell sales education, right? Because we've done the research years ago, right? Objection handling is number one. How do I overcome this objection? Not only are we going to have the course in there, right? Creating the right framework for overcoming objections, but we're going to have regular calls where Ian can support you guys on how to overcome those objections. And then again, you know, like talking about all the different products I've created and sold throughout the years. There's over $10,000 of value there. Everything that Ian's adding right now, and for all that, it's only $97 a month. It's kind of ridiculous what we're charging. The feedback I keep getting when I've told a handful of people I trust is, "You're stupid for charging so little for it." I was like, well, you know, this is the vision. And hey, look, if we're selling thousands of these and after a month, we will revisit the price conversation. But until then, our targeted audience is a person that works in sales, but is probably not self-employed, right? If you're working as an insurance rep, if you're going and selling solar, you're not self-employed. You're fairly independent. Salespeople are fairly independent, but you're not self-employed. And what we found is that people that are not self-employed are less likely to invest in themselves. And so we put it at a price point where it would be obscene to not sign up.
Yeah, we wanted to pick a price where it's like, wait, am I missing a number? Like, it's 97? It's not 997? No, it's 97.
Yeah.
We wanted to provide so much value and to provide so much support for this community that you would be silly to not visit the site and actually see what's going to be available and join and actually start reaping the benefits and building that community and that network.
Yeah, not just that you'd be willing to sign it right away, but you'd be excited to tell your friends and family about it. So we've talked about, what's going to be on there. We haven't talked about your selling framework, Vivid.
Yeah, so the Vivid selling is a framework it's just a way to think about framing a consultative sales process. So VI, VID is Vivid, and it's pretty simple to think about in terms of people are going to be familiar with the general idea of making the conversation about the prospect if that's you've got an experience with consultative selling. So the first V, we're going to be figuring out the vision from where the customer wants to go. What is their goal? What are their desire? What are they trying to get done? What are the problems that they have? And where do they want to go? The first I is identifying the gap, the space, the challenges that are in between where they are right now and the vision for where they see their business, where they see their career, whatever they want to have happen. What's the gap between those two outcomes? And then the middle V, right smack in the middle, is a big thing I believe in, which is that we validate what they go through the entire process. So this is a big differentiating thing, I think, between some of those other sort of old styled sales guru stuff you'll see talked about. You see clips of on YouTube and stuff, which is the idea of like always agree with everything the prospect says, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If someone says like, I love this Mercedes, you go, I agree with you, it's amazing. If someone says, I hate this Mercedes, you say, I agree with you, it's terrible. I mean, it's it's silly, right? If you're trying to sell them a Mercedes. But we validate, that's that middle. We validate their opinions, their hesitations, their objections as a fundamental. That's like the peanut butter in the middle of the sandwich going throughout this process. It's the main thing going through it. The second I is we figure out the impact of not making the changes they could, aka not buying the product or service. And finally, that's what we do to guide them to figure out what they would like to decide to do. It is their decision. They never feel pressured. People never feel like I got forced to buy this and now I've got sales remorse or buyer's remorse rather, and then I'm gonna back out. Like if you do the Vivid selling process appropriately, your cancellation rate should only be equal to the person's financial problems. Not a matter of like, oh, I felt queasy, I shouldn't have done that. We want to eliminate that idea. If you go through the framework appropriately and actually consult with your prospect before you actually get them to commit to buy or real estate sell their house, they don't want to back out because it was their decision.
Right. It's that difference of the consultative selling, which we kind of talked about with the drill, right? The one that asked them why they're buying a drill versus what do you need the drill to do? And
yeah, that guy's not taking the drill back to Home Depot after he builds that house. He's not like, done with the drill, I'm going to take it back now. I got a 30-day policy. That's not going to come up. This was exactly what he needed to create those memories with his family.
And another thing, too, we're going to be facilitating role-playing. So how's that going to work?
Yeah, so that's a big thing because I've been on a bunch of different sales teams in a bunch of different industries now, and I can tell you that the teams that role play, who actually talk through the types of conversations they're going to have, that when they come up with a tough part of the conversation, when they want to handle certain types of objections, they drill through it. They go through that experience and work on it together. So there will be set up to have role play conversations based on like, what's a conversation you had earlier this week that didn't go the way you want? And we'll be role playing with me on the call. We'll set it up so that other community members will role play with other people. So every single salesperson I've ever met fundamentally loves role playing with another good salesperson because it is such hyper accelerated growth to be able to do that. So we're going to be setting up lots of ways to facilitate the community role playing together, role playing with me, with other people watching, giving their feedback, getting guidance, making sure that whatever is unique to your circumstance is being brought up and being dealt with.
I want to make sure we say that correctly because I might have misheard you. So I just want to say it again. Good salespeople want to role play with other good salespeople. Not all salespeople. I know plenty of salespeople that don't want to role play.
Yeah.
And those are not the good salespeople, right?
No.
Great salespeople want to role play with other great salespeople. I mean, you see this. We use so many analogies between business and sport. You guys watch Pardon the Disruption. You guys see us do that a lot. Well, it's the same thing with sales and athletes, right? you don't just show up on game day and just nail a 10-yard slant, right? You don't just show up on game day and just crush a homer, or you're shooting Devin Booker type numbers, right? Like, that doesn't just happen. You got to put in the reps, you got to put in the work, and that's what's required to excel in your business, and that's what we're talking about here with role playing within the community. And the other thing too is feedback. Again, like, the biggest win. And by the way, when I was doing my own sales training, I wasn't paying $97 a month. I was paying my coach thousands of dollars a year, right, to be in his presence, right? So we're talking quite a bit cheaper. But the best way to grow on top of the role playing was the feedback. Him listening to what I'm doing, or here's what we said on the appointment, and it was always like, well, we didn't say it like that. It's like, yeah, we did. He's like, I'm sorry, right? Like, we're not gonna be that harsh, but feedback. We just did a call today, right? Earlier today, we had Andre on our call, and he knew the words, right? He's working on his craft. He knew the words, and we really helped him out on the role play with the tone, right? Hey, the words you said were great. The way you said it inserted uncertainty and doubt into the conversation, and that's the reason why this conversation went down off the rails, and why the objections you're getting were more difficult. You got difficult objections because of the way you said what you said, and what you said was totally fine. One of my great things I heard from Chris Voss was, you can rescue bad words with good tonality, but you cannot rescue bad tonality with good words. And that is like the perfect display there. And that's what we get to do inside this community.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to come back to that idea of the salesperson as an athlete is a great example, because people like to think when you see, like, for instance, some crazy paycheck for that athlete, let's say like a Devin Booker or something, and someone thinks like, I can't believe he's getting paid this much. He's only working this many minutes a night, right? Like, in terms of how many minutes he plays off the bench, that's how much he gets paid. If that's this much per hour, no. They're not paid for the performance when they're on, or they're not only paid that well for simply how well they perform on the court, or at least not just paid for that court time. They're paid for all of the aspects that go into getting them that great that they can perform in court time. So a lot of those guys, they have like separate shooting coaches, like they've got coaches that help them with their conditioning, strength coaches. They invest in themselves, and they are rewarded handsomely for being the type of all-star athlete who has a team around them to grow up their skills, so that when it is game day, when it's playoff time, when it is actually time to have the sales consultation, the conversation with someone who's going to want to potentially buy your product, you've put the work in, and now it's easy mode. You've done all the hard work and preparation beforehand. That's what you were paid so well for. That's why you get paid so well in sales. It's not necessarily simply what you get paid per hour. Because when I remember talking to a manager I had when I was finally doing well at Solar, and him telling me, you're making this much per hour. But he was acting as if I was only, I mean, I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to make me feel good about how I was getting paid, acting like I was only working the time I was doing the consultation. It's like, no, this is like a lifestyle. It took me, half an hour or sometimes an hour and a half to drive to this house to begin with, let alone the fact that I was like role playing with myself in the car. I was doing the work. We're taking that principle of investing in yourself and having a community around you that wants to grow together, and we're putting that in the package to make sure that we are going to beef up your 100 millionaire number, Steve, with the people who are in this community and get their skills levels up and get their abilities up and network. Yeah, it's going to be huge.
I'm excited. We're going to destroy that 100. We're going to do way more than 100.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I hope we do at least 1,000 alone within just a community. We had Dean Rogers on the podcast, right, on Real Estate Disruptors a few months back, and one of the things he said, right, he played for the San Diego Chargers, and he said game day was significantly easier than practice. I just think about that, right? To play during game day at full speed, high contact, right? Because he played tight end and fullback. There's nothing but contact in those positions, right? he felt game day was easier than practice. And so we're talking about creating an environment within the community so that you guys can actually practice your craft before you get out there into the field. So something else we're going to be doing is, we're going to be doing all the calls inside the Discord, right? It's going to be localized within the community. We're going to be providing training that's not going to be available outside the community, right? So if you want this extra training to be inside the community, and then, there's also going to be some exciting income opportunities inside the community as well. But, that one you'll just have to join us to find out what that is. And then what we're also doing is for the first 30 days or first 100, we're going to cap it. We can't give this away to everybody. We're going to be offering founder status, right? So for the first 500 or the first 30 days, we're going to be offering founder status. And should you sign up as one of our founders, you're going to get $1,000 off to any of our live events, as well as $500 off any one-on-one coaching calls with Ian specifically. So again, first 30 days or first 500, we have to cap it. We can't offer this forever, right? So just something that we wanted to add there. Anything you want to add to that, Ian?
Yeah. If you've ever watched Real Estate Disruptors and considered what would it look like to actually invest in myself and not just be, get education or entertainment from this podcast, which again, I'm a big believer in the line you say all the time, like the informational podcast can help you become a millionaire alone. That is 100% true. If you want to get there quicker, you do it by investing in yourself. You've ever considered anything that would ever involve even cracking open your wallet just a tiny little bit to invest in yourself in terms of getting better with having conversations with people when revenue is on the line? Just the discounts alone make this an absolute no-brainer for founder status.
Yep. So, and again, our mission, we're going to create, our intent is to create leaders within the group. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. And we want to change the culture of sales. We talked about in the very beginning. There is a reason why everyone hates going to car dealerships. There is a reason for that. And we want to disrupt sales. We're calling it sales disruptors for a very specific reason. We want to change the way sales is done. This bullying somebody, pushing them hard, the hard close, I just don't think that's the right way to do it. I think if you fully understand the other person's position, have their best interest at heart, and you have the ability to help them, then at that point you have qualified and earned the right to do business with them. Anything you want to add to that before we go into the questions?
Yeah, not only that, I would say it's actually the path to making more money. You are capping yourself at thinking you have to persuade. So I call it like, this is good for salespeople and persuasion-focused entrepreneurs. But fundamentally, persuasion is kind of a confusing word because it sounds like I'm going to persuade you to do something. It's really just an all-encompassing phrase for our approach, which is that this was your idea. I consulted you on the process. And that is absolutely a way to make more money. When I change the ideas behind like, how should I be running this process? What should this actually look like? That's when suddenly I was like, oh, a 5-figure check. I never thought I would see that coming from what I was doing beforehand. And then suddenly like things start steamrolling, and it's unbelievable what happens when you actually make it about consulting with the prospect to make it their decision rather than forcing something down their throats. You will make so much more money as a sales professional. Absolutely.
So we're going to go to the questions in a moment. So just real quick, if you guys find value, you guys want to join Ian and join us on this, go to salesdisruptors.com. That's disruptors with an O. The salesdisruptors.com for $97 a month. Oh, and real quick, for the first 10 people that do sign up and leave a 5-star review on WHOP, I know it sounds ridiculous, WHOP. For the first 10 people that leave a 5-star review, I will do a one-on-one call with you about your business, right? So I think that's a no-brainer, but, you guys decide what you guys want to do. Let's go to a quick video, I believe, and then we'll do the Q&A. Okay, so looking right here on Instagram, we got JL7. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Every time I listen to Steve, I get something I end up using in my everyday approach. Greetings from New York City. That's awesome. I appreciate, there's two things. I appreciate A, that you're listening, and B, that you're giving feedback, right? I always enjoy hearing the success from people that we're impacting. We started this, I cannot believe it, it's 5 years ago, right? Like May 1st was officially 5 years. Having done this for 5 years, it never gets tiring hearing from people. It's like, hey, I got success learning from your show, right? Just listening to it, taking one nugget, executing it. My favorite thing by far. So IDL Consulting, how do I sign up, and is it virtual? Yes, it is virtual. And you just go to salesdisruptors.com, right? SALESDISRUPTORS.com. You go there, and there should be a link for you to sign up. Are there coaching class during the week or modules? Both. There are both, right? We have the trainings. We already have uploaded there. I think the team was saying over 30 hours of stuff I've produced over the years, which is kind of mind-boggling, much stuff we've created out there. But between everything I've ever recorded, which is our sales masterclass, right? We've charged $5,000 for it. Our disruptors, our dispositions training, that was $500 we charged for. Our lead gen product, we charged $500 for that. And then there was data handling and there was something else there, right? But we charged $1,000 for, like, we've had so many events that we've held during the years and products we've created. It's already in there right now. It's kind of crazy to me. So we've got the courses and then the regular trainings. Ian is committed to doing 2 a week. And if we get to 300, we'll do 3. If we get to 400 people in there, we'll do 4. If we get to 500 people in there, Ian's committed to doing at least 5 calls a week. And those are the ones we're committed to, not to mention any bonus ones we'll do in the future. So yes, you get the answer to your question is modules and training.
Yeah, and also we'll be in the Discord. It's not just like I just hop on once a week. I will be in the Discord actually answering questions in the chat, like talking through stuff as if you were like texting me or Steve in the middle of the night. I will be on the Discord to answer the questions that they're coming up with anyway. In terms of just the actual going through the live calls, though, yeah, it could be up to 5 a week, depending on the setup and how fast this takes off.
Another reason why we like Ian, he's insane and he's obsessed, right? So if you ask questions in there, at least for the foreseeable future, right? Because he just has a newborn. He's gonna be up at all random hours of the day. If you post in there, he will respond. But look, these are great qualities. And the reason why, if you look at our real estate disruptors, you look at everyone that's been successful, they're obsessed, right? The things they have in common: obsessed, grit. You could not keep them down. You could not knock them over. And they pay for coaching. Like, if you look at the 3 characteristics of every single person that's been on Real Estate Disruptors, right? Grit, obsessed, and coached. So, food, some things to think about. How often the calls and what day? So right now it's 2 calls a week. Don't hold us to this. Right now we're looking at Tuesdays and Fridays, but absolutely 2 calls a week. Anything you want to add to that, Ian?
Yeah. So what would change in terms of those dates would be if we're finding out that the majority of the community members, for some reason, are busy on Friday or something like that, right? That would be the only reason that would change it, but 2 a week.
Yeah. And then, when we're talking about eventually getting the 5, here are the things we want to talk about, right? How to implement the sales process, which it sounds crazy, but we reverse engineered sales, right? So how to actually implement the process. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about overcoming objections. We're going to be talking about role playing, and we're going to be talking about scenario specific situations, right? Here's a situation I bump into on a regular basis. And look, I would venture to guess, I've had the great fortune of training the best house buyers across the country, right? I'm in Collective Genius by the grace of, of just amazing things. I get to work with the top 50 house buyers, organizations in the country, there are very few objections that have come up that we don't have an answer for, right? And then you got Ian with his solar experience, with his insurance experience. I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to have an objection or scenario that we can't talk through. Oh, and another thing too, we can also bring dead deals back to life. Remember we had Matthew on our coaching call a few months back. And he's like, hey, I've got a scenario. I'd love to hear what you would do, Steve. And we were talking through. He's like, the guy can't stand still. He's being tricked or lied to by another person, and he believes that other person is lying to him is his savior to help him out of a bad situation. He's like, can we role play this? It's like, sure, we can role play it. And we role played it, right? So they were the unstable, right? Like unfocused seller. And I was like, okay, here's how I would approach it. We role played the whole thing. We recorded it on one of our coaching calls. And then he sent his guy back out there, and they recorded that too. And it was so mind-boggling to me. They used like 80% of what I said on that call, on that follow-up appointment, to not only get the contract or get the seller to undo whatever verbal agreement he made with the other lady, but to sell his house to them. And they've got this guy, Tyrone, set for the next few years. He won't have to worry about anything for the next 5 years. And on top of all of that, they're making, I want to say, like $60,000 in profit after they're able to flip that house, right? Those are the kinds of things we're talking about on these training calls.
Yeah, I would say that's so funny. It's like that was one of those instances where to us, we thought we were just sort of like role playing a throwaway situation that like, I wish I could have done this a little bit differently.
Yeah.
We ended up basically giving them the exact like step-by-step process to make $60,000 and get this guy out of this tough situation. Like that was a perfect example of something where they, and they'd been on the training before, like they've had sales experience. This is a successful company. They knew like they have a pretty good grasp of the sales process, but by actually getting to go back and role play and go through an experience that was absolutely unique to exactly what they just dealt with, and then take that experience, what we did, and just deliver it out in the world, they ended up making all this money and doing this great deal. That is a big aspect of the type of things we're going to be focusing on trying to get done, is making sure that your unique circumstances as a salesperson, that you're getting the feedback and the responses to be prepared for future situations and to revive dead deals.
Yep. And then you had similar experience as well. You had someone that you were consulting with who had a scenario where he's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen with this deal. And you're able to help him fix that. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. A guy I'm coaching, Lance. Lance was having a situation where he had to come back on it to a deal that he was acquiring a property in that sense. And he was needed to have a pretty tough conversation with a motivated seller about what it would start to look like for him if the price went away. And we role played it out multiple times, went through it over and over again. I got to be him. He got to be him. We stopped. We literally just gave him the game plan to be able to have that conversation. And he ended up saving or negotiating down $40,000 on that deal. It was an unbelievable experience to get him to like go through that process and make that type of money by just practicing that one conversation.
Yeah. So again, super exciting, right? Within the community, within people we work with, we're already able to do this. Now we're opening this outside of real estate and into the general public. Anyone else, that's whatever they're running into, you can join this sales community and just really watch your revenue increase. And again, right, talking about creating 100 millionaires. What better way to actively increase your net worth and to get better at sales? I see here, Hudson, they said that they just joined and left a review. Thank you so much. Send me an email, steve@disruptors.com, and we will connect and we'll do a one-on-one call. And IDL Consulting says, well, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. And again, I am super, super excited to see where this goes. I think this is going to be, I mean, you hear this phrase thrown around a lot, right? Game changer. I genuinely believe this is going to be a game changer. I genuinely believe that we are going to, again, pun intended, or intentionally, right, disrupt the sales industry. I want to, for Ian, for myself, for everyone here, to leave a legacy where sales is done differently, and we don't have to have that feeling like going to a car dealership, right? Like that dread, oh, I have to talk to a salesperson, right? We want to change that across the industry.
Exactly. And I would say that the key to getting that is not just the only way we can actually do that at scale is to provide such unbelievable value for the money that you're going to be silly to not join. That's literally the idea here. So fundamentally, if someone's hesitant at the price point, like it's usually not someone who invests themselves, because the amount they're going to get for this is going to be mind blowing.
Yeah. And Hudson, the question, how do I sign up my team members too? So right now, the way it's set up, it is per team member, right? Again, we price it so it's individual. So like the idea is if you work at a State Farm, Allstate, or some other, what other industries, right? Like this is individual specific, right? So the way it would work right now is if they get value, they would, if you see value for your team members to get it, they can sign up too. And then we are incentivizing everyone after they join a way to, get compensated for referring other people to as well. Like I said, the price we have it there is where people should be ecstatic to refer their friends and family. I wish I had this, right? Like talking about my journey, getting licensed in 2007, and then finally getting official sales training in 2018. For 11 years, I left millions of dollars on the table. The reason why I was able to survive those many years is because I was good at marketing, right? And not even like great at marketing. It was just that no one else was doing pay-per-click marketing, right? From 2009 until 2015, pay-per-click was just something other people did, right? We've talked about it. I was spending $2 and change per click on Google, and $12 and change per lead for Google. We just ran the numbers last week. We were spending about $260 per lead right now in Google, right? I was spending 12. So I was good, not because I was a great salesperson. I was the worst salesperson. I was able to do business because I understood how to do pay-per-click before everyone else. But yeah, if I knew then what I know now in sales, again, I probably would be retired by now. But yeah, so 11 years, I read the books, listened to the CDs, right? Audible wasn't around. Listen to the CDs. I wasn't doing a cassette, fortunately, right? It was a CD. But listen to the CDs, read the books. There weren't a lot of courses available out there, at least, none that seemed relevant. So I never bought any courses. And the stuff that we're talking about here wasn't available. All they just said was, hey, you got to stop being pushy and be a consultative salesperson. It's like, okay, but like, what does that mean? Right? And it wasn't until I signed up for an actual trainer in 2018 that I actually got better at sales. And by the way, that was complete happenstance. I wasn't even looking for sales training. I was just looking to hang out with Pace Morby and all the other home investor guys. That's the only reason why I found sales training. So it's kind of insane about all that. So I don't see any other questions here. Anything else you want to make sure we chime in on?
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, first off, I just wanted to, in addition to like actually getting the training, getting coaching through role play scenarios, just the amount of time as someone who loves sales that like I just spend on like the sales Reddit or like on different forums just to ask people for advice and just to see what types of deals are they closing, to like just be immersed in that. Like I would have killed just getting started out to immediately have access to a network of not just sales professionals, but professionals who are interested in growing and getting better. That the very nature of being in this community means you are trying to improve and become a better salesperson and become better at having conversations. Those are the absolute best people to surround yourself with. The whole your net worth is your net worth, your network is your net worth, rather. That principle could not apply any more than being in a community of people who are all trying to get better together. There's nothing as valuable as surrounding yourself with those people every single day.
Yep. And we are going to be intentionally enrolling people into the community, right? We're doing it here. But, you know, I've got my network. The one, it's not a downside, but the one caveat with my network, pretty real estate heavy. So, you know, for those of you guys that are listening, I'm going to ask you guys for help. And again, we're going to compensate you for this, right? But we're looking for help in growing into other industries, right? So, you know, if you have friends in solar, if you have friends in auto, you have friends in financing, any other industry where they have to get clients by having a face-to-face or over-the-phone interaction, these are the kind of people we want in our community. So I'm asking you guys to help us grow this community. We cannot do this alone. And I'm really, again, looking forward to see all the success stories, read the success stories, just like when we had earlier here, right? You know, we had JLS EVN in New York City. Looking forward to seeing all these amazing comments and feedback that we get from the community. Oh, the other thing too, before I forget, one thing that Ian and I have talked about offline, I am so excited to find salespeople from within this community to hire. Right? I'm so excited. Like, is there a better person to hire than a person that's gone through our training? Right? I can't think of a better place. Like, hey, I want to hire someone in sales. I'm going to be looking inside this community. There's no one better qualified. So actually, you know, kind of a side story is how I connected with Ian. Right?
Yeah. I would say if you're thinking about as a sales professional, what you sell and who you sell for, of course, matters, right? That's going to be the types of conversations you're going to be having every single day, the types of leads you're going to have put in front of you, and the amount you can get paid on what product. And so if you're thinking about, well, I want to make sure that I can make the most money and enjoy myself the most as a sales professional, I need to make sure that I get hired at the right company. If as a sales manager myself, if I'm thinking, looking at two more or less identical resumes, because you can also know in sales that resumes don't mean too much. A resume is just a piece of paper fundamentally. It can tell you some things. There's definitely information there to be gleaned, but it's nothing compared to actually having the conversation. So if I'm simply thinking in terms of credentials, I know this salesperson is actively investing in themselves and their abilities, and this person is not. And there's everything else looks more or less the same. Fundamentally, I would always go with the person who's investing in themselves. And principally, the person who's doing that is going to end up having a much better resume anyway, because things open up for you when you do that.
Yep. So I want you to leave some last thoughts. Think about a message you want to leave everybody with. I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements. You know, again, guys, I'm super excited to see where this goes. Tune in next week. We got David Lecco. He's going to be coming on here. He is the founder of Deal Machine, and we have something planned for him I'm going to be excited about as well. We will share that next week. But, you know, as far as today, I couldn't be more joyful and excited to see what we're going to do here, because I am looking forward again to disrupting the industry, and I expect this to be, you know, in the future, looking back, this will be, you know, one of the best things we've ever done. Go ahead, Ian.
Sales is, I mean, like real estate's incredible, but sales is the absolute best thing ever. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I have been ever since I got started. It's all I think about. It's all I want to talk about. I'm such an unbelievable sales nerd. I could not be more excited myself as in terms of getting people better at their job, getting people better at commission-based roles in some sense, where they can make more money than they are right now, make significantly more money than they ever have before, just helping people solve problems, consulting people through the process, and getting them to make their own decision that ultimately results in a very happy customer and a very, very wealthy salesperson. This is amazing. I'm like I'm giddy excited to be a part of this.
That's right. So salesdisruptors.com. We'll see you guys inside the community. Again, first 10 to sign up. We're going to do a one-on-one call. We'll see you guys in there. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.